The Acolyte's recent failure prompted reflection on Star Wars' 12 horrible years as a Disney property. This video isn't another catalog of Kathleen Kennedy's poor stewardship. It isn't a celebration of the Acolyte's reported extinction. It isn't an added shovel load of dirt on The Last Jedi's coffin. It isn't a look back at Kenobi's canon-breaking events. No, this video is all those things and more. Kennedyfilm continues to subvert the morals of George Lucas, to replace integrity with relativism, to supplant selflessness with selfishness, to portray evil as good. All damage done with a veneer of boldness, complexity, and representation for modern audiences, as if George's films lacked those qualities and appealed only to a niche. The unholy alliance of Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy has reduced Star Wars to an unrecognizable husk. Next, I have 10 decisions for Disney-era films and streaming series to illustrate the corruption of George's vision. Welcome to Galactic Initiative. I'm your host, Jeff. And I believe Kennedyfilm has forsaken Star Wars guiding principles. If you agree, I hope you find truth in my list. Let's begin. Everyone familiar with Kennedyfilm's messaging expected Bo-Katan, played by Katie Sackhoff, to reacquire the Dark Saber. However, the stupid anti-climax of Din Djarin simply handing it to her with the reasoning of a preschooler was ridiculous even by Disney standards. The Dark Saber has always been problematic for its violent, archaic rites of challenge like the path of succession in Wakanda. For civilization to supersede barbarism, the criteria for selecting leaders must shift away from brawn in favor of brains. That said, if the code is combat, let there be combat. The ambusher of my ambusher is champion nonsense left no one satisfied. Either take the Dark Saber from Din Djarin and declare an end to superstition, or fight the man. Vice Admiral Holdo had a plan to save the Resistance, but she refused to share it with her only wing commander, Poe Dameron. The Last Jedi attempted a maturation arc for Poe. It failed for several reasons. First, Poe demonstrated prudence in The Force Awakens, so his regression in The Last Jedi, less than one day later, seemed impossible. Second, Rian Johnson's heavy-handed treatment of Poe generated sympathy, not approval. Third, the disparity in charisma between Laura Dern, who played Holdo, and Oscar Isaac, who played Poe, is significant. Fourth, Leadership 101. Those in the upper echelon should never expect subordinates to take risks, including their lives, without a clear purpose. Period. In Boba's book, the titular character terrorized his adopted hometown, Mos Espa. His challenge to the Pike Syndicate was a street battle that leveled an entire district. Kennedyfilm's milquetoast version of the fearsome bounty hunter campaigned to win the hearts of Mos Espa's inhabitants after he was scolded for his privilege. The scooter rocker who delivered the tongue lashing also influenced Fett's battle plan by ridiculing his suddenly gubernatorial and philanthropic nature. Rather than draw the Pikes away from town to save lives and property, he chose to barricade an intersection, thereby jeopardizing everyone and everything nearby. To make matters worse, Fett lost control of his pet Rancor. In the end, Mos Espians irrationally celebrated the consequences of Fett's stupidity. Family was apparently more difficult than armed insurrection. After a 3-film rehabilitation that led to the Empire's destruction, Han relapsed off-screen. The general inexplicably went solo by ditching his wife and child. Rey and Finn met him as a laughingstock in The Force Awakens. He chose smuggling over struggling to connect with his emo son. The guy who risked his life to save Luke, Leia, and the Rebellion multiple times suddenly signaled deuces and walked out on greater purpose before Jar Jar Abrams could snivel action. What a satisfying end to George's maturation arc for Han. A father who abandoned his child, a husband who abandoned his wife. In the Kennedyfilm tradition of character deconstruction, Obi-Wan Kenobi held a 10-year pity party for himself after Episode 3. The Jedi Master who once asserted, "I will do what I must," created a must-do list. 1. Ignore the Force. 2. Work as a meat packer. 3. Stalk the Lars family. And 4. Allow everyone to disrespect him. The absurdity of Obi-Wan Kenobi to open his D- series still angers me. 4 starring roles and 2 cameos in George's Star Wars films demonstrated the character's resilience. Obi-Wan overcame the darkest circumstances with humor and cunning. Why swap optimism with nihilism? Why deconstruct and subordinate another hero? Well, in lieu of an adequate explanation from creation or creators, one acknowledges the trend. Though he'd committed patricide, avunculicide, amicicide, and mass murder, Ben Solo, aka Kylo Ren, conjured his own absolution. He forgave himself through a vision of his father, a scene that took place in his mind. Yet, afterward, J.J. Abrams wanted audiences to accept his face turn and root for him. Anakin Skywalker's expulsion of Darth Vader wasn't a wipe-the-slate-clean moment. He died for his wrongs, but he took solace in a future for his children, a solid moral lesson. One can always change the future, but one cannot always escape the past. Emo Ren just switched sides like a professional wrestler. His subsequent death wasn't a consequence of his evil deeds. He never suffered for his crimes. Reva Savander, aka Third Sister, held a grudge after Darth Vader executed Order 66 at the Jedi Temple, where she was a youngling. He stabbed her through the chest with his lightsaber, so years later she joined him as an Inquisitor to hunt and kill Jedi for a good cause? Reva's plan, as shown in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Step 1, earn Vader's trust through homicidal behavior. Step 2, assassinate Vader once in proximity. She justified maiming, torturing, and murdering as means to an end. When she failed at everything, Obi-Wan exonerated her. In George's Star Wars, she would have been a villain. In Kennedy's Star Wars, she was a victim. Who am I kidding? George would have never allowed this character in Star Wars. Jedi Master Luke Skywalker decided to murder his nephew based on a vision and allow the First Order to rule the galaxy. Mostly off-screen. The young man who flew an X-Wing against a Death Star and a Snowspeeder against Imperial walkers. The cool hombre who strolled into Jabba's palace and threatened the vile gangster in front of his entire retinue. The one person who believed Anakin Skywalker could be resurrected from Darth Vader. Yeah, that bloke activated his lightsaber to kill the only child of his sister and best friend. Afterward, unable to cope with his guilt, he turned his back on the galaxy. Rian Johnson created The Last Jedi as a subversion of the hero's journey. He set out to ruin Luke. The suddenly Force-sensitive Sabine Ren handed over a star map that led to the return of Grand Admiral Thrawn. Why did she assist the baddies? Her backstory is the development of a superweapon that the Empire used to destroy her people. She apparently learned nothing from her own experiences. In short, Dave Filoni rewrote Sabine for no good reason. Fans couldn't recognize her from Rebels. She could have stopped the Empire and honored Ezra's sacrifice, but she facilitated the Empire's resurgence based on her friend's own love for Ezra. How selfish and short-sighted. And instead of rebuke for her indefensible action, Sabine received corroboration from Ahsoka. The Acolyte provided the clearest example of immorality in a Kennedyfilm production. Jedi school dropout Osha choked her former master to death using the dark side of the Force. This climax intended applause, but it elicited disparagement. Lee Jung-jae as Jedi Master Saul carried the series, and his heel turn was so poorly written and executed that viewers didn't accept him as the villain. Laughable interruptions prevented stakeholder discussions until the final scene, when Saul was rambling instead of setting the record straight. Leslie Headland, writer, director, and showrunner, presented murder as empowerment. Fans understandably doubted her moral compass before, during, and after the series. She turned Osha, a confused young woman, into an evildoer and expected accolades for the acolyte. Thank you for watching. What are your thoughts on my list? Did I omit a major lapse in morality by Kennedyfilm? Let me know with a comment. Please like and subscribe. Check out Galactic Initiative for all things Star Wars.
Galactic Initiative is not authorized or endorsed by Lucasfilm Limited. The name Star Wars and all related materials are registered trademarks of Lucasfilm Limited, a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Company, but rights reserved. Galactic Initiative is a registered trademark, and other product and company names are trademarks of their respective holders. Use does not imply affiliation or endorsement.